Hi everyone. In this video, I would like to talk a little bit about GWF Hegel's The Philosophy of Fine Art. I'll share the screen. Okay, so Hegel is the most important German philosopher of the early 19th century. His all-embracing absolute idealism was an immense influence on later thinkers, including such critics as Kierkegaard and Marx. In this excerpt from a longer work, Hegel gives us three characteristics of a work of art. Number one, it is brought into being by humans. Number two, it is created from a sensuous medium. That just means like a medium you can touch, like a tangible medium, by humans and for humans. And third, it has purpose. It has a purpose. So we take each one of these in turn. We ordinarily think that nature is higher than art, Hegel says. So nature is alive, whereas a work of art is dead. That is, it's like, the canvas is dead, and not like it used to be alive, dead, but just dead in the sense of it's not alive. It's an inanimate object. He's using some poetic license here. So the work of art has an appearance of life, but below the surface, it is just wood, stone, or canvas. But a work of art originates in the human spirit, which is very important for understanding Hegel. It continues to belong, he says, to the soil from which it sprang. So it sort of takes something from the person that made it. It has, and he uses sort of metaphorical language that can be very interesting, or on the other hand, it can be confusing. He says it has, the work of art in this case has received, this is a human-made work of art, not a natural object. That's beautiful. This work of art has received, he says, the baptism of the mind and soul of, he says man, but I prefer humans because there's no reason you can encompass everything that's meant by the archaic man by saying humans, human-made, or what have you. You can say humankind rather than mankind. I think it's high time that we make the change. The language is a living language, in my opinion. It's not something that just stays the same for all time. So getting back, spiritual values are better and more purely emphasized than is possible anywhere else. This is in a work of art. So the work of art is of higher rank than any product of nature. For instance, a painted landscape thus assumes a higher rank than the purely natural landscape. So that's all about his number one, that we ordinarily think of nature as higher than art, but he says, as a matter of fact, art, in this case fine art by humans, human-made art, is higher than natural works. So discussing the second point that he made, art is produced for human sense apprehension, but this dimension has given rise to the misleading idea that art affects only one's feelings. This is an empty subjective state, just one's feelings. This leaves out the essential character of the work of art, right? So he objects to this idea that a work of art can just make you feel emotions, like just in general. And then the third thing that he's working on is the third point that he makes in what makes a work of art. What is the end or purpose of art? One of the most prevalent views is that art consists in copying natural forms, so imitation or representationalism, as we discussed in earlier weeks. So the most prevalent view is that it consists in copying natural forms, like painting pictures of trees and so on, in such a way as to correspond fully with the facts. But this would be a bare repetition of all that is already in the external world, Hegel says. This would be a superfluous task, a trifling It lags so far behind nature, it can only produce one-sided illusions. Perhaps then art is to produce something that resembles nature and thus gives us delight. And this gives us delight. But a copy is never as interesting as the real thing. When we hear a Nightingale song, we become quickly bored when we find out it's coming from a man. It's an interesting point that Hegel makes. You know, if you're sitting in your house and you hear Nightingale singing, let's say you're sitting with a good friend and you have a friend, John. I'm bad at making up names at the moment. So John goes to the bathroom, you know, and you're sitting there with your friend, and then you hear this sort of bird song that's going on, and it's just like, wow, this is amazing. And you both look at each other, it's amazing. And then you start laughing and you say, oh, that's just John. He's in the next room, he's playing like a bird. Now, you might be amazed that John could do that. I mean, maybe John's the kind of person, you didn't know he had talents like that. But in Hegel's view, it's going to be less interesting to copy the bird song as like a human being pretending to do a bird song. Well, actually, okay, that's not right. A human doing the same bird song as a bird does is not as interesting, according to Hegel. Okay, I'm glad I got that out. Some have held that the end of art is in moral improvement. Actually, that's been a theory. But then art would be merely a useful instrument which possessed independent importance. So it wouldn't be independently important in its own right. So the problem with having the purpose of art be in some kind of moral improvement is that this would just be a useful thing to do. It would be for some purpose, appreciating it for some purpose other than the artwork itself. Okay, that's important. As opposed to all this, art's true function is to reveal truth through sensuous or material means. Other ends, other purposes, such as instruction, purification, these are things that an artwork might be expected to do or has been theorized to be able to do and is good because of it. Instruction, purification, improvement, procuring of wealth, none of these have anything whatever to do with works of art. I hope that this short video has helped you understand this interesting reading a little bit better. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.